feeling when you're listening to a politician? Sometimes you're just thinking, that's a completely meaningless slogan. And then just minutes later, another one speaks and you're thinking, I have absolutely no idea what they just said. It's this super common frustration, right? Political language always seems to be one of two things: way too simple or ridiculously complicated. So let's get into why that is, because it turns out there's a lot more going on here than just a simple versus complex problem. So on one extreme, you get these totally empty phrases like Brexit means Brexit. Okay, sure, it's easy to say, but what does it actually tell you? Nothing. But then on the flip side, you get a real mouthful, like this quote about fiscal restructuring. It sounds really official and important, but it's buried in so much jargon it's almost impossible to follow. We're kind of stuck between these two poles. And this all raises a really fascinating question. Which one of these is actually worse for us, as citizens trying to make informed decisions? Is it the empty slogan that gives us zero substance? Or is it the wall of jargon that just shuts us out completely? Well, guess what? A new study is finally giving us a framework to solve this exact puzzle. Okay, so here's the breakthrough. The big idea is that we've been looking at this all wrong. We're not just talking about one thing called simplicity. We're actually dealing with two totally separate concepts. It's all about separating the style of the language, its form, from the substance of the message, its content. So let's break that down. The first dimension is what the researchers call accessibility. Just think of this as the form of the message. Is the politician using clear, everyday words that you can understand right away? Or are they throwing around dense technical terms that make you feel like you need a translator to keep up? This is purely about how easy the language itself is to process. Now, the second dimension is sophistication, and this one is all about the content. Does the message actually have any meat on its bones? Is the politician giving you real arguments, backing them up with reasons, maybe even presenting some evidence? Or are they just feeding you hollow one-liners and catchy slogans that don't really say anything at all? So here's the crucial takeaway. We've got to stop thinking about political language on just one sliding scale from simple to complex. Instead, we should be analyzing it on two different scales. Its form, is it accessible? And its content, is it sophisticated? And believe me, this simple shift changes the entire game. But hey, how do we know this actually matters in the real world? Well, the researchers didn't just dream up this idea. They put it to the test with a really cool experiment to see how these different styles of language really affect people. And they ran this experiment with nearly 2,000 people. So we're not talking about a small focus group here. This was a pretty big study designed to get some solid, reliable answers about how we all react to the words politicians throw at us. So here's the clever way they did it. Every person in the study read a statement from a made-up politician. But here's the twist. They were randomly put into one of 4 different groups. The researchers basically mixed and matched the two styles we just talked about. So some people got a clear, substantive argument, others got a simple, empty slogan. And then another group got a jargon-filled version of that same substantive message, while the last group got a jargon-filled version of the empty one. So what happened? How did these different combinations of form and content actually change what people thought and how they felt? Well, the results are incredibly revealing. Okay, first, let's look at how these styles affect our own thinking. The study found that both jargon-filled, inaccessible language and empty, unsophisticated content had the exact same result. They made people feel like they were reasoning things through less. Basically, both a wall of jargon and a hollow slogan make us switch our brains off and stop really engaging with the topic. But here's where it gets really, really interesting. This is the absolute killer finding. While both styles make us dislike a politician, they have totally different effects on how we judge their competence. When a politician uses all that inaccessible jargon, yeah, we might not like them very much, but we don't necessarily think they're bad at their job. But when they use those empty, unsophisticated slogans, not only do we dislike them, we also think they're less competent and less trustworthy. That's a huge difference. And this chart just illustrates the point perfectly. Using what they call a feeling thermometer, a politician who uses clear, substantive language scores really high. See that? Now add some jargon to that substantive message, and their likability drops a bit. But look what happens when the content is unsophisticated and empty. Their likability just plummets. Using empty slogans is uniquely damaging to how people feel about you. So let's bring this all together. What is the big takeaway from all of this? How can you and I use this new way of thinking about political language in our everyday lives? The research is crystal clear on this one. The most effective and, frankly, the most respectful way for a politician to talk to us is to be both accessible and sophisticated. They need to use clear, understandable language to present real, substantive, well-reasoned arguments. It's not about dumbing it down. It's about being clear enough to be understood and having something substantive enough that it's actually worth listening to. So the next time you're listening to a debate or a speech, try using this new framework. Don't just ask yourself if the language is simple or complex. Ask yourself two questions. First, is this language accessible? Can I understand it? And second, and maybe more importantly, is the content sophisticated? Are you just hearing easy words, or are you actually hearing real substance?